What is it that drives the relentlessness of the manhunts in The Fugitive and Les Miserables? And what happens when the manhunters come face to face with their false gods? That's what we're about to find out. Hi, welcome to Cinema Rolls, your go-to channel for movie comparisons. I'm your host, Basha, and today we're going to take a deep dive into the mind of a special kind of hunter, an officer of the law on the trail of a wanted man, a man whose capture has become his sole purpose in life. We start with Inspector Javert, played by Anthony Perkins in the 1978 version of Victor Hugo's classic Les Miserables. Javert is on the trail of one Jean Valjean, an escaped convict whose only crime, the theft of a loaf of bread, culminates in nearly 20 years in prison. We're going to compare and contrast Javert's manhunt with that of Lieutenant Gerard from The Fugitive, who is hunting down Dr. Richard Kimble, a man who was wrongly convicted of murdering his wife and escapes on his way to death row. In addition to the 1993 movie The Fugitive, starring Tommy Lee Jones as Inspector Gerard, we're going to be including some scenes from the TV series that ran from 1963 to 1967 and stars Barry Morse as Lieutenant Gerard. Why, you ask? Because the TV series parallels Les Mis much more closely than the movie, and that's not by mistake. Apparently, the creators of the TV series based their story on Victor Hugo's classic. And I thought I was so clever picking up on these parallels, but no. It was intentional. Now, let's meet our manhunters.
Who is that prisoner?
Notice that Inspector Javert doesn't ask, who is that man? He asks, who is that prisoner? To him, a criminal is almost not even human. He belongs to another class.
There are two classes of people. Those who attack society and those who guard it.
This is nowhere more evident than when he attempts to arrest Fantine, one of the miserable ones that the movie's title refers to.
But this girl was found soliciting in the street.
I was just begging.
She struck a gentleman and insulted him.
No, he struck me first.
From Javert's point of view, it doesn't matter who struck the first blow, because he classifies the man as a gentleman, but puts Fantine in the criminal class. And I think it's safe to assume that this is based purely on appearances. And it appears to be within his powers to mete out punishment without the benefit of trial or jury.
Be quiet, woman. You have committed a crime and you will have 6 months for it.
Javert is prevented from arresting Fantine by the mayor, who turns out to be none other than Jean Valjean, a convict who had escaped from Toulon prison many years earlier, on Javert's watch as chief of the prison guards. When Javert finally recognizes Jean Valjean and comes to arrest him, it's clear that his attitude toward Fantine hasn't changed.
You think a streetwalker can be nursed like royalty?
And when he's questioning Jean Valjean's housekeeper, Sister Simplice, after Valjean escapes from his custody, his rigid two-class system fails him.
It is my understanding, sister, that you have never told a falsehood in your life.
Never.
Then forgive me for asking, but it is my duty. You have not seen the man who calls himself Monsieur Madeleine within the last hour?
No.
Even though Sister Simplice has just told the first falsehood in her life, it doesn't occur to Javert to doubt her word, because he has placed her in the category of people who are above reproach, and those categories for him are inflexible. Now, let's meet Lieutenant Gerard from the Fugitive TV series. We're introduced to him by a faceless narrator who sets the tone for the entire series.
Be sure of this, they'll never stop looking. He'll never stop. Not Lieutenant Gerard.
And although he's not quite as rigid as Javert, Gerard also adopts this same system of pigeonholing people, as we see when his pursuit of Richard Kimble takes him into a dangerous territory where the local police refuse to accompany him.
We leave them people be.
But bootleggers, lawbreakers?
And over the 4 years of his relentless hunt, even though he comes to harbor doubts as to Kimble's guilt, Kimble has been deemed guilty in a court of law, so Gerard is determined to bring him in, even on those occasions when Kimble has actually saved Gerard's life.
You're building up quite a case. Selfless, devoted doctor saves the life of his persecutor.
He even tells Kimble that he's impressed by what he's done.
But that doesn't change anything.
No. That doesn't change anything.
And he'll use every trick in the book to get Kimble into his clutches.
All right, you got the gun, use it. Shoot that light out.
Because at the end of the day, it's the letter of the law that matters to Gerard. And the law has taken on such primacy in Gerard's life that you'd almost have to spell it with a capital L, as if it were authority personified. And he is only the servant of the law.
What is it about Kimble?
I enforce the law. The law pronounced him guilty. I enforce the law.
This reverence for the law directly mirrors that of Inspector Javert, who takes it one step further.
The law does not allow for special days. A crime that is committed must be punished. The laws of society can never be ignored. Nor God, nor anyone else can alter your sentence.
And to a lesser extent, the Tommy Lee Jones version of Lieutenant Gerard, let's call him Tommy Lee Gerard for short, shares this attitude with the other two manhunters.
I didn't kill my wife! I don't care!
Great line. It's clear that his only concern is getting the job done.
Yeah, Richard, that's right. I don't care. I'm not trying to solve a puzzle here.
To both Javert and Gerard, guilt is neither a spiritual nor a philosophical concept. For them, it's much more mathematical. The law has pronounced these men guilty, and that's the only thing they need to know.
There is no God. There is only the law. Guilt and innocence do not exist outside the law.
Captain, whether the law is right or wrong is not my concern. Let others debate and conclude. I obey.
Gerard feels no obligation to seek the truth and is able to detach himself from any feelings of responsibility if it should turn out that Kimble is indeed innocent.
Others found him guilty. Others were about to execute him. I was merely an instrument of the law. And am.
And while Javert and TV Gerard share an attitude of servitude to the law, Tommy Lee Gerard just seems to relish the challenge that his job presents him with and even seems to have fun with it.
My, what a mess.
And that makes him almost more human and maybe a more sympathetic character. But there's nothing sympathetic at all about Javert's character, as we see when he's adding years to Jean Valjean's sentence for attempting to escape from prison.
It is the decision of the military tribunal that 5 years be added to your sentence. I am requested by law to inquire if you have anything to say on your behalf.
Yes. If you treat men like animals, that is what you'll get.
3 months solitary confinement in the hole for insolence.
And again after Valjean's next attempt.
It is the decision of the military tribunal that 10 years be added to your sentence. I am requested by law to inquire if you have anything to say for yourself.
Someday I'll kill you.
6 months in the hole for disrespect.
He's not even moved by the tragic death of Fantine.
There is no more, Monsieur le Maire.
You have killed this woman.
There are guards without. Come quickly or they will take you by force.
But if he's harsh with others, he is equally harsh with himself.
I am sorry to report that an inferior officer has failed you in the gravest manner.
And who is this officer?
Myself. And I request that you procure my dismissal at once. I have done wrong and I deserve punishment.
So he's the most extreme of the three when it comes to unrelenting severity, but Tommy Lee Gerard, in spite of being a character that might be easier for today's audience to identify with, can be pretty cold when it comes to dealing with criminals, to the point of endangering his own team, as he does in this hostage situation.
I'm gonna blow his brains out. I want out of here. I just want to come, man.
I can't hear anything. My ear is, can't believe you did that.
You think I should have bargained with that guy?
Yeah, you could have killed me.
Yeah. Can you hear what I'm saying now? I don't bargain.
We don't know anything about Gerard's history, but Javert has some baggage that's led to his fanaticism about the law.
My own father spent time in prison. Indeed, that is where I was born.
But more than that, his obsession with capturing Jean Valjean is personal. We have a foreshadowing of this when the two men first meet and the prisoner Jean Valjean dares to look Javert in the eye. It's clear that Javert isn't used to this and it visibly unnerves him. Later, when Valjean rescues another inmate who's been crushed under a rock at the quarry where the prisoners are working, Javert looks unsettled again and doesn't seem to be able to comprehend this act of human kindness. Many years later, Valjean comes to the rescue of yet another fellow inmate, and this is where it really gets personal.
Let me try.
Haul him up!
Valjean is presumed dead by the other prisoners, but Javert is not convinced.
Not a trace. Nothing. He's dead for certain. Shall we continue the search?
After all, Valjean had already escaped on Javert's watch twice, so he had a good reason to suspect that this was yet another clever attempt at escape. And those escapes must have humiliated Javert deeply, because he had failed in his duty, and failure is not acceptable to him. His entire self-worth is wrapped up in his career and his dedication to the law with a capital L. So, years later, when he discovers that Valjean is alive and well, he goes after him with a vengeance, probably more so than he would have done with any other fugitive, because Valjean is singularly responsible for his humiliation, and Javert must atone for his sin, the sin of failing in his vigilance. In fact, his career choice as an officer of the law may even be his way of atoning for the sins of his father, who had, as he mentioned earlier, done time in prison. He may even view the very fact of his own birth in prison as the blemish of original sin on his own character, and his servitude to the law his way of attempting to erase that blemish. This is very close to the explanation we find for TV Gerard's obsession with tracking down Richard Kimble. Like Javert, Gerard has lost his prisoner time and time again.
Kimble!
I've lost a lot of things these last 4 years. Starting with a prisoner the state told me to guard.
His sense of duty explains the obsessive nature of his pursuit and lets us know that this manhunt has taken its toll on Gerard as well. And he's looking forward to the day when he can put it all behind him and get on with his life. Because even with his somewhat extreme devotion to law enforcement, he does have a life outside his job, a wife and a family, unlike Javert, who lives only to serve the law. Tommy Lee Gerard doesn't meet Kimble or know anything about him until after he's escaped. But there does come a point in the chase where it becomes personal for him too.
Richard, do you want to get shot? Pay attention! Get down on your knees!
Notice the nod to Jean Valjean's escape in Les Mis? So now it's personal for Gerard as well, because he failed to apprehend Kimble when he had him. But he's different from Javert. He's not humiliated, he just doesn't like losing, and so he rises to the challenge. He wasn't interested in Kimble's motivation before, but now, understanding Kimble's motivation is what he hopes is going to help him keep one step ahead of Kimble. And Gerard's own motivation has nothing to do with atonement. It's more about maintaining his track record and propping up his ego. And he does have a big ego.
Don't ever argue with the big dog. Big dog is always right.
And like Javert, even though everyone else is convinced that Kimble is dead, Gerard has his team continue the search.
Gentlemen, put 2 patrol cars on that bridge down there. 4 patrolmen have them glass this river. Next thing I want to see a helicopter come over here. 100 feet off of this river, make him aware of these wires. Yeah, what are you out of your mind? He's dead. I ought to make him easy to catch.
Only one person in a million can survive that fall. The guy is fish food.
Go catch a fish and eat him.
So now we've got a handle on who these detectives are and why it's important to them to get their man. In part 2, we'll take a look at their strategies for tracking him down and see what happens when the tables are turned. And then in part 3, we'll discuss their final confrontation as well as if and how these detectives have changed as a result of their manhunt. And you can watch those right now by clicking on the end cards. And I'll meet you there.